Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today we're going to work on pruning my Lilliput Volcano. You can see here. Very interesting pot. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute, but it's to me this whole planting, evokes trees kind of growing on top of a volcano, which is something I've always kind of been excited about. And I have a playlist. This tree has a playlist, so check that section if you want to see the previous work. We haven't touched this tree. You can see it's growing really well. About 3 or 4 months. I think it was sort of end of May when we last pruned it, but you can see it's grown really well. And just look at the leaves on this. These Lilliput Portulacaria Afra are just incredible. I mean, the leaves are so small and they grow very quickly, and they're just perfect for small bonsai, in my opinion. And look at this thing; they grow quite well. So this has got, I don't know, one, two, three, four, like 6 or 7 sets of leaves. That's about when I want to start pruning it. So let's kind of zoom in and see what we want to do to this. You can see there's a lot of room for. Oh, let me show you the pot first. Actually, I just love this pot. It's never been one of my more popular videos on the channel, but I just really like the pot, and so I'm just going to keep growing these trees in here as this tiny trifecta forest, and we'll see. But it's really a cool pot. You can see I have some sort of lava rocks that I just put in here, to get the trees established. So I think I'm going to take those out. I used black. I have some black lava, which I think would actually work better here if I want to do that. But I think for now we'll just get rid of the rocks and see how I like that. So yeah, we got the rocks out. We'll do some pruning here. Basically, nothing major. I just sort of want to take it back. You can see that the trunk and is kind of getting some interesting bark now. I think these little trees are firmly established in this pot. So I'm just going to let it grow out, just kind of do the standard, cut it back, keep the branches that are going in the direction that I want, and encourage those to continue to grow, and reduce the others, and then just let it grow out, and we'll continue to thicken the trunk and get more character. I mean, I really want these trees to be quite small in this planting. Eventually, I'll grow them out to be fuller once I get all the structure where I want. But yeah, you can see they're quite firmly in here, and I think first thing I'll do is just take this wire off because we don't need it anymore, and I don't want it cutting in. These trees have not really thickened up too much, but I think this next phase of growth, I think they were busy kind of, creating roots in this pot, and I'm sort of expecting them to put on a ton of growth in this next growth phase. Yeah, you can see it's pretty solidly in there, so I don't think we need this wire anymore. I'll take this off. You want to be careful. Sometimes when you cut this wire off, it sort of can torque off a branch. So you want to take small sections. I just cut the wire off. I consider it, just the cost of doing business. I don't try to unwrap it because I've just damaged way too many trees doing that. So, it's not that much wire. And yeah, there we go. If you cut off small enough sections, I suppose you could reuse it to hold your screen in a pot. But I usually just put it in the recycling. And yeah, oh, here we got Bigfoot. I almost forgot about him. We'll put him aside and restore him to his kingdom when we're all done doing maintenance pruning on this. And yeah, so these wires, they go all the way down to the bottom of the pot. But I find it doesn't hurt to leave them in there, so I just kind of cut them off at the ground, and on the next repot, these will have enough roots that they can stand on their own, and I won't need to wire them in again for that. But yeah, let's take a look. You can see it's quite bushy. It's kind of got a big round shape, and I want to come in here and we'll start with the main tree here. And, I want to work on each tree and get it defined. Here we've got some stuff growing straight down, which I could never use. So I'll just take that off. And the stuff growing a little, if it's growing straight up or it's kind of cutting, back towards another branch or back towards the trunk, I want everything to kind of come up and out. And I'm going to get rid of anything that isn't growing that way. And it can be a little hard to see, so I'll stick my hand back here. But that branch is looking pretty good already. I don't know if you remember, but in the last video I really had to cut this back. I had some massive branches that were growing all over because it was really the first pruning of the tree. And so what I found, it gets easier as you go because, you're constantly giving the tree feedback about how you want it to grow. There's a real long one going out the back, crowding out the tree next to it. And that's definitely one of the challenges with creating a forest in such limited size here is, they do sort of try to grow into each other. And you just have to keep cutting that back if you want them to be small or put them in a larger container. But for now, I'm going to keep going at it, and I'll try to cut along this line to get a nice conical form for this tree. And it's getting a nice shape now. We have sort of defined branches. It's kind of looking a little less like a whip or a twig or a rooted cutting, and a little bit more like a tree. So I'm really looking forward to developing it. And as I said, these Lilliputs are just so charming with the fine detail and super, super small branches. But they grow quick. So here I've got kind of a mess on the apex, and I'm just going to cut it back for now. So I do think I want the tree to be slightly taller, although not a whole lot taller. And so oftentimes I just kind of initially do a profile prune, and then on a second pass I'll come in here and cut out those redundant branches and really thin it down so I get some I kind of open the little tree up a bit so I can sort of see into it and see some space in there. But this one is looking pretty good, certainly for a first pass. We've done a pretty good job. You can clearly see the defined branches. I think the top is still a bit congested. It could probably be thinned out a bit. But let's move on to the second tree over here to the left, and then we'll come back and fine tune everything after we've kind of chopped it back a bit. But that is just a charming little tree. I really, like I said, if you can see the base of the bark, I'm really thinking in this next year this will actually start to look like something. So I'm going to just take off the long growth that I don't want. This tree, I kind of want it to grow off to the left. I'm trying to save most of the space for the primary tree. And if you look at these trees, this one is a little, it's a little straight. It's got some branches coming off of it, but it's got a long kind of interesting straight section here that I might want to address. It looks a little bit better from other angles, but I'm just not super happy with this tree as it stands. So part of what I'm doing here is, I want to get rid of some of this growth that is sort of hidden by the primary tree. Just kind of thin it out because it makes it hard to see the primary tree. And, this may be a problem that I have to address later on. My feeling is probably eventually at some point these trees will get nice fat development, and this may be a single tree pot, but for now I'm liking my forest, so I'm just going to thin this guy down. And I sort of like how it looks from this angle. It sort of hides the trunk. At least the top of the trunk where it's really just super straight. And so it does have some interest. Like I said, these Lilliput just are charming, and you have so much detail in such a fine amount of space. These leaves are just so small. Um, so I'm just taking this guy back to a conical form, and I really want to kind of give it, just the sort of the abstract hint of the shape here. And yeah, I'm going to cut that back so to create some space between the main tree and this tree, which I regularly do when I'm pruning these because it just gets so crowded in you can't see anything. And probably at some point, um, when they're more developed, I will have foliage closer together. But for now, I kind of want to create some space, and I'm really not happy with the height of this. I'm going to take this off and see what happens because I want to create some delta. That's way better because that tree is no longer competing with the main tree, and it just cleans up so much. So now it can kind of grow off to the left, and the main tree is much more featured. So I'll just clean this up, and I think that's quite an improvement. I'm glad I did that. That was certainly the way to go. So not much more we can do with that one. I think that last cut was the critical improvement. Do a little bit more thinning to it and get it prepared to grow on. But yeah, I think that looks quite good. And so now we just have to prune this tree on the right, which suddenly looks quite massive, even though it was smaller than the other one. And again, I'll just get rid of stuff that's growing into the other trees. I don't want that. And I have to do some branch selection here because we just have a bunch of branches coming out all over the place. I'm going to shorten this back because it's kind of conflicting with the main tree from the front. And the rest of them are doing a good job of kind of heading off to the right here, which is kind of what I want. So I just have to pick the height I want on this. And I think kind of similarly to what we did to the tree on the left, I don't want it very tall because it kind of ruins the sense of scale because it's in the back. And it also draws your attention away from the primary tree. So I'm just going to take it all back to the first set of leaves and see how that looks. And then probably go a little further than that. But I think that's a good start. This tree is kind of hidden by that branch on the right, but I really like that in the main tree. So I'm just going to do what I can here, and then we'll grow it on and kind of look at that in the future. But really trying to just simplify this one down. And even though these trees are small, they pretty much grow like any other plant. They're very the growth on the top is very dominant, right? So you really want to make sure you thin that out so that the bottom doesn't get weaker and weaker. It's very hard if you just let the top go without first developing the bottom branches. It's very hard to develop the bottom branches because, the tree just wants to put all the growth in the top. So you're better off trying to get some bottom branches and then grow the top. I found that works way better, and especially with these trees where the tops just grow so quickly. You don't have to worry about the top. You almost get that for free with these trees. Very, very fast and easy to regrow the top. So I think this is looking pretty good. I'm going to shorten this up a bit just to get it more compact and create a little more space between all these tiny trees so I can really see what's going on and just kind of tune the shape here. I sort of want an angle from the top, down to the ground. So, I want the foliage to be in tighter near the top of the tree and wider near the bottom. So I'm just encouraging it to grow that way by shaping it, kind of profile pruning it to that shape now. And I'll just maintain that. And finally getting around to just thinning out the top. I just have too many branches and too much foliage up here. And if I thin that out, it'll sort of rebalance the tree, and I'll get more growth distributed throughout the whole tree, which is exactly what I want in this case. I've mentioned this before, but it certainly bears repeating, and that is that, these Portulacaria Afra, all varieties that I've worked with so far just love to be pruned. I mean, they back bud pretty reliably, and particularly these Lilliputs, they just put out a ton of massive, dense green growth. So don't be afraid to really prune it. And I don't know, like one of my mantras is, I prune it to what I like, and then I try to go a step further because they grow so quickly that you're very quickly going to be working on this again. And I think we got a nice shape here. Look, we've got a nice um, A shape. I think the trees really are you can appreciate each tree kind of on its own as you spin it around, and then also even looks good from the back. When you look at it from the front, the main tree is sort of featured, and the other trees are kind of complementing that one nicely. And so I think, I'm going to tune it a bit here, much like I did to the front tree. I really just want to I just want to cut off as much as possible, right? Um, in preparation for this next stage of growth. Because if you don't, these trees will just get away from you fairly quickly. And I think this is just about as much as we're going to want to do here. And I think it looks great. So let me just clean up a bit and we will take a look at this. And, one of the things I wanted to talk about is pot size hugely affects growth. Like I recently pruned my what I call Mount Lilliput, it's another interesting pot. I guess I like to put my Lilliputs in interesting pots, but it has a really constrained area for the roots to grow, and you know radically changes the size of the trees. Like that one grows much more slowly than this one, where I mean these are all sharing a space, and it's probably kind of a smallish, size pot as well here, but they have way more space here to get water and nutrients and just stability, and that directly translates to growth. It's quite amazing to me. So, the larger the pot, the faster, more aggressive growth you're gonna get, which may or may not be what you're looking for. But if you go and watch that other video that I just mentioned, Mount Lilliput, you'll see quite a difference in the size of the trees and even how much they grow between prunings. Um, and that looks pretty darn good. Yeah, I don't think we want to take any more off. And I think we've got some great improvements here. Kind of tuned it up, got a nice shape to the forest, got rid of some rocks that weren't really adding anything, took the wire off, and this main tree is really featured much more than it was in the past. And I think it just looks great. So let me just take a few leaves off here. I'd like to get them out of here because they just kind of shrivel up and become kind of nasty blobs. And we'll do a little victory lap, and you can see it from the side. I just love this pot. And you can see it from the back and the left side, and here we go back again. And yeah, so pot size and interesting pots are two topics we discussed today. And oh, I almost forgot. Let's bring in Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and let's see. I think he'd be better sort of. He's a little shy, so let's put him kind of not hiding behind a tree, but hanging in close to a tree. And this, he's not very stable, so I tend to try to bury him a little bit so the water doesn't flush him around and knock him out of the pot. Let's see if I can get him in here. And look, see, you can't even see him. There he is! Look at that, lumbering around in his standard Bigfoot pose. And with that, I want to thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.